Hello, and welcome to another episode of Enter the Minds of Nadine and Vera podcast.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone today?
I'm good. How are you, Mom?
I'm good.
All right, well, let's start this off with a prayer.
Yes. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the many blessings that you bestow on me and my family and extended family and friends. We pray that you walk with us, hold our hands, and be there each and every step of the way. Thank you for your miracle, and I'm asking for more miracles in the future for the health of my loved ones. And I just want to say thank you for watching over my children and my mom. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, guys, life has been lifing. We took a couple of weeks off because we have been dealing with life, right?
Yes.
We have family members that are still in the hospital, some that have been in the hospital and gotten out, and some loved ones that were in the ICU and now are in rehab. So we're just blessed that every day for God's strength to get us through, right?
Yes. And how are you doing after all the sleepless nights you've spent in the hospital with your friend?
It's tough, but you do what you got to do to stay strong. So.
And that's important. When you have family and friends around, it's a healing method. It was actually told to me by a doctor that it helps them get better sooner.
Yes. Well, and thank you for being there as well. So it was a joint effort, definitely. But before all of this happened, we went to the beach at St. George Island.
Yes, actually the Sunday before
Yes.
And it was so beautiful. We went to a park that was on St. George with the pavilions and bathrooms and all kinds of accommodations.
It was right on the beach, and we had a nice cool breeze. We all went, except William. He wanted to stay home with the dogs, but Kayla swam for like hours in the ocean.
She did. She just got out for a second, wiped her eyes, and went right back to the ocean.
Yeah, she said that she was happy that she went. And
yeah, but this is the child that used to want to sit in the truck when we went to the beach because she did not like the beach.
She didn't like the beach because of her eczema, and she didn't like the sand being on her skin, but she stayed in that ocean for hours.
She got over it.
She found a little friend.
No, a little friend found her.
Exactly. It was a young teenage girl, but we didn't know how old she was. She looked the same age as Kayla because Kayla was 16, and Kayla was in the ocean, and she just kind of joined her and started talking to her. And that lasted for, about an hour?
A little bit longer.
And then they walked on the beach for seashells, and then when I walked past her mom, she was like, oh, is my daughter taking your daughter too far? She's only 15, and I'm thinking, oh, Lord.
Well, Kayla said she told her that she was 24.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, you're kidding. Like, no, I'm 24.
Yeah. So, but I told her that she probably made her day just, talking to another,
Yeah, she was with a family, but she was the only girl. And they came from the country. From the country. And
go to the beach for the day, so that was lovely.
She needed to have a friend, and Kayla accommodated her.
But we had chicken, we had fruits, and Jessica had her fruit dip, and Deborah just enjoyed the sun, and we just sat there and talked and had a good time, just enjoying the view and the breeze. It was really nice.
It was real.
It was healing.
And it was family. That was what was most important to me.
We spent all day. It was nice. We need to do that more often.
And I'm going to tell you, going the weekend before Memorial Weekend was a still. You don't want to go to the beach on the holiday. Normally, we go on the 4th of July, so it would be like 50 million people. But this beach, it was people there, but we were all spread out, and we had our own little spots and could, spread our food out under the pavilion. It was very nice.
Exactly. And besides that, we've been watching a lot of playoff basketball.
Yes.
So, what do you think about OKC?
Well, you know, when the Warriors were eliminated by Minnesota, right?
Mm-hmm.
I decided I was going to support Anthony Edwards because he's a young, upcoming, you know, celebrity superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, they were playing OKC, and then I couldn't help but admire SGA. Shea is nothing nice, okay? Everybody talk about how Seth is this awesome player, which he is, but he got hurt during that series.
Right.
And I really believe that part of that is why they may not have pulled off winning that particular series. But, you know, one man is no team. You have to remember that. But then here come SJA. I'd like to see SJA play against Steph. I always say his name wrong. Because he was awesome and let me say one more thing. Not only was he awesome with his playing, he did not boast. He just made points and kept it moving. And that's what I like. And they, during the commercial, the commentary said that's how he is. He'll purposely go and sign autograph for kids and things like that for hours. And he's humble. So that's what I like about him.
Steph is like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why he's the MVP this year. So, congratulations to him.
Yeah. But, you know, I so wanted Anthony Edwards to have the opportunity to go a little bit farther. But I'm over it now. I'm OKC.
And then what about the Knicks and the Pacers?
Well, you know, I like Jokovic. How you pronounce his name?
Well, he's not in there.
Wait a minute. Which one I like on that team? You know, I get Jalen
Brunson, because you call him Big Head.
Mm-hmm. And who's the other one?
They have a lot of people on there. DiVincenzo and Hart.
The thing is, I was just tracking Minnesota and OKC. Yes. But I do know a couple of the players on the other team. And we know that whoever wins is going to play against OKC. But from what I saw the other night, even though, what team was that won? The Knicks won. The Knicks are going to have to come with a lot harder if they think they're going to beat OKC. I'm just saying.
Well, we're just focusing on this round, so I'm still going for the Knicks over the Pacers.
Yeah.
But overall, probably OKC will probably win. So we'll see.
Oh, Midville, USA.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it.
Okay, well, today we're talking about domestic violence. Yep. But before we start that, we're going to talk about the Diddy trial. Right now is in week 3. And Sean Diddy Combs is on trial in New York on charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. Racketeering activity refers to a wide range of criminal acts, including murder, kidnapping, gambling, arson, robbery, bribery, extortion, and more. The 17-page indictment against Combs, which reads like a charging document filed against a mafia leader or the head of a drug gang, alleges that Combs engaged in a 2-decade pattern of abusive behavior against women and others with the help of people in his entourage and employees from his network of businesses. Combs and his lawyers say he is innocent and any group sex was consensual. They say there was no effort to coerce people and that nothing happened amounted to criminal racketeering. The jury consists of 8 men and 4 women. How do you think he's going to fare with the jury?
Okay, pardon me, everyone. I really just don't have any interest in what's going on with Sean Combs' trial. I pray that if he's guilty, he's found guilty, but I'm just not one to be rushing to the news media to see what happens next. I'm just not. But I did get a little kind of blown away when I heard that they asked the president if he was going to if he would consider pardoning him. Now that would shake me up if something like that happens.
Well, I get that you're not following it, and that's fair, but if this has been going on for decades, it's good that he's being held accountable if he did it. allegedly. So the trial is expected to last at least 8 weeks, and we're in week 3. If convicted, Combs faces the possibility of decades in prison. So you're one of those people, if you did it, he did it, and needs to go to prison, but you're not worried about it.
I believe he did it. That's what you're asking me and everybody involved. I'm just saying that my peace of mind that I demand to have and fight to have every day does not consist of, if I was following something like this, I'm so sensitive until I would start carrying it. I would start sleeping on it and stuff like that. So that is why I said I'm not really following it, because I don't want it to enter my peace. But
well, I just bring it up today because I feel like it's kind of relevant of what we're talking about today.
Oh, it is. And I do believe and I do know what he's accused of. But I don't want to follow the trial because they start getting details. And details is what, I took a minor in psychology and I found out real quick. I don't want to be the person that, is counseling someone in that predicament because I take it on. There's the whole thing. I can't explain it.
Say one more thing before we keep going after this is that he has 4 daughters. A set of twins that are 18 and another daughter that's 18 or 19. And they've been at his trial every day, and they're seeing the witness talk about their dad. So that's what I take away from it, that must be very difficult for his young daughters to have to go through that and see or realize, is this my dad? Or if they truly believe that he's innocent, that's what I wonder at night. So
you never can know. When it comes to a parent, when a child loves a parent, they love them no matter what.
Well, that's true.
So in their mind, they may be totally convinced that it's not possible, it's not true. So I couldn't tell you what they're thinking, but I can relate to the fact that when you love your daddy, you love your daddy.
All right. Well, today we're talking about domestic violence.
Domestic violence, we chose that because it's something that we all need to be aware of. There's an awareness level that everyone needs to have when it comes to domestic violence. So we just want to cover a few things to, just kind of like make people aware. Domestic violence is a serious and a widespread issue that affects individuals regardless of age, gender, socioeconomics, status, race, or educational level. So we're going to talk about an overview first. Would you like to take the first part, Tony?
Okay, so what is domestic violence? It refers to abusive behavior in a relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain control over another intimate partner or family member. So there's some different types of domestic violence. We have physical abuse, which is like hitting, slapping, punching, pushing, shoving, restraining, strangling, or just some examples, using weapons or objects to cause harm.
Now, those are the obvious, but there are other levels of abuse.
That's correct.
Like the one that I want to, we have a list of them, but we're not going to list them all. But I wanted to bring this one out, stalking. Stalking is when you repeat it, unwanted attention and contact, following, watching, or harassing in person or online. A lot of people don't realize that stalking, or, like calling people or following them or watching them online, they don't think that it's a crime, but it is. It's a form of abuse. So you have to be real careful. I understand I love you and I'll try to fight for you and do whatever I can to get you to come back to me, but you need to watch your step when it comes to that.
Well, we've all done it.
Oh, yes, I have. I have stalked, but I didn't know it was stalking.
Well, when I was in my 20s, I know, if you consider driving by your ex or your boyfriend's house just to see if you see any cars in the driveway, I've done it too. But I think you need to know where that line is and not go over the line. Like, I'm not looking in windows. I'm not harassing his family.
You were stalking.
I was in my 20s. I don't do that anymore. No need.
Yeah.
Okay, and then another big one is emotional or psychological abuse.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women or men go through emotional abuse, insults, criticism, humiliation are some example of emotional abuse.
And that's considered common in some family. What you just mentioned, and they don't even realize that they're being abused emotionally.
Sometimes they think it's the person who's doing it think it's funny, like it's a joke or something, maybe.
And sometimes they think, well, if he didn't fuss at me or whatever, that would mean he didn't love me. Well, that's not love. Love is not like that. It doesn't hurt.
What about gaslighting?
I don't even know what that means. Tell me about it.
Manipulating someone to doubt their own sanity. You know how, like, if you
I've been gaslighted. I know what you're saying.
Okay.
But the thing is, what we're trying to do is talk about it. So those that may come under this particular subject would know, wow, I'm being psychologically abused or I'm being gaslighted. Because you don't really know what's happening to you until you think about it. And then you go, oh, wait a minute. He's trying to make me think I'm losing my mind. Yeah, I have been there, but I was able to pick up on it and say,
not going to happen.
But then a lot of people don't pick up on it.
That's true.
Because they don't know what it is.
That's true. So some warning signs of domestic abuse is fear of a partner or family member, frequent injuries with unlikely explanations, withdrawal from friends, family, and activities, and that's the big one. They try to keep you away from your family and friends. Like, if I talk to you every day, we text each other updates all day long, and for some reason, if I stop doing that all of a sudden, I think that would be a warning sign to you that something is going on in my relationship if I didn't talk to you every day.
Well, in a domestic abuse relationship, the first thing they want is to separate you from your loved one. And they don't care if it's your mom, dad, brothers, whoever. They try to keep them away because, other people in your life will be able to see things that you wouldn't normally see.
I think they love bomb them at first.
Yeah, they do. They make them feel like they couldn't live without them.
And then maybe after they get married or after they've been together for a while, it's a change.
It's a total change.
And so, you wonder, this goes back to red flags, like, why did they stay with them? Why did they marry them? But sometimes they don't realize that the switch doesn't turn on until maybe, it could be years later, months later. So
it usually happens when they feel like they're to the point where they got you. Whether it's marriage or not.
Or maybe.
Yeah. Anything.
And also constant check-ins or approval seeking from your partner. Like they have to ask their partner, hey, can I go to the store? Or is it okay if I hang out with friends? It's a difference between talking to your partner and just having a conversation versus actually having to get their permission.
Because what should be said is, honey, I'm going to go to the store. Do you want anything?
Right.
Or, now when it comes to hanging out with friends, I know that's a little bit more touchy because, when you get in a relationship, it just changes. I'm going to go hang out. It does. But don't look at it as you getting permission. Just consider, are you ever able to hang out with your friends in any situation?
By yourself?
By yourself without your partner being right there. Now, that is a sign, a flag.
Or always complaining whenever you suggest it, or trying to manipulate you to stay. Oh, I'm sick. Can you stay home with me? Or, so who can be affected?
Oh, now, you know what? You cannot, if you have children and you are in a domestic violent home, the children are affected whether they're being touched or not, because guess what? They can hear, they can see, and they can actually pick up on your emotions, how you feel, or what's going on with you. And not to mention the fact that you are allowing your children to be in a dangerous situation.
True.
And that's not fair.
So who can be affected?
Did you know that there are men who get beat and abused by women? So everybody, if you're a breathing human, you can be affected.
Yeah, and there's a lot of females out there that are very controlling.
And then elderly people, which breaks my heart. You know, there are people that does, they call it elder
abuse.
Yeah. Like, why? You know?
Because they're easy to take advantage of. You know, a lot of people, take their money, mistreat them, take their medications or pain medications. It's just easier because they're older and some of them can't do for themselves and they need help, from somebody else.
So, I had asked the question why. And what Tanya and I came up with was basically it's seeking control and power. And where does this need for that come from?
I think they're insecure about themselves.
And then it say learned behavior. They may have grew up in an abusive environment.
Substance abuse.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Some people, like I watched growing up, I had aunts and uncles and cousins, that was older than me. And there were those who drank, became the sweetest person in the world when they were drunk. And then there were those, I had one aunt that was particularly close to me, but when she got drunk, she was meaner than a rattlesnake. You just didn't want to be around her. And for years, I separated myself from being around her until she stopped drinking and, over the years, and then she became that sweet person. So, yeah, it don't have to be hard drugs. It could be alcohol.
So you put up a boundary between you and your aunt just to protect yourself in your emotional state.
Yes, because she was mean, and I was growing up and feeling myself, and I was like, I'm grown, and instead of the respect that I should have maintained for her, I was losing it, which means fight. Fight. Yeah. We don't want to get into what happened with that. But anyway, over the years, we came close again, and, it was when she got drunk.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you do if someone, is experiencing domestic violence?
That's a good question. It say what to do if someone. It say seek help from a trusted friend, family member, or professional. Contact a domestic violence hotline. Create a safety plan or call emergency services. But we're gonna cover that differently a little bit later, because when a person is in danger, you could say, well, you know what, you need to get out of this situation.
It has to be their choice.
But it has to be their choice.
If they're not ready, just let them know that you're here for them, to support them whenever they want to reach out, that you're always here. No judgment.
That's right. Listen to them, be there for them, and definitely not judge. See, if you haven't been in the situation now, disclaimer. I've never been in a domestic violence situation, but I've seen and witnessed close friends, relatives, when I was growing up that was in a domestic violence situation. And I may not, when I was a kid, even knew what the word domestic violence meant, but I do know Uncle was kicking Auntie's butt, and she was coming to stay with us and share my room, or other people in other family. I seen it, and I told myself, that's not going to happen to me.
Right.
I'm not going through that with nobody. But, yeah, I've never been in one, but it's real, and you cannot pass judgment, because, especially when children are involved, when you get married like me and you have children, my dream was my children will be raised by mom and dad. We will be Leave It to Beaver type family, happily ever after. Well, that's a fantasy, right? In some cases. And so a lot of people stay because they think it's better for the children. And a lot of people are just weak. They feel like they can't make it on their own because they've been put in that position where they didn't have any resources or even obtain a skill. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think there's a lot of women and or men who would say they would never think that they would have been in that position or that situation, and you don't know until you're in that situation whether you're going to stay, leave, fight, or create a safety plan. So what I gathered is a safety plan, even if you don't want to leave or just, just to have a safety plan is just key.
Yeah.
Meaning putting some money to the side, have a backpack at someone else's house. So that way you don't have to be trying to pack a bag while they're there. Just watching a lot of Lifetime movies. Don't try to leave while they're there in a home. Wait till they go to work or wait till they go to the store and then leave, But
the thing is don't be afraid and don't be ashamed. When you make up your mind, especially if it's a safety situation for you or your children, there are resources out there where they will come and help you leave. You don't have to do this, or you have a trusted friend, a family member to help you leave. But you have to make up your mind. And making up your mind is not, but. Mm-hmm. There's no but in it. I'm gone. If you got a but, stay. But it may cost you your life, or limb, or a child.
So how to recognize domestic violence? Recognizing it can be life-saving, whether yourself or someone you care about. The signs can be subtle or overt, and they can escalate over time.
Common signs that someone may be experiencing domestic violence are physical signs would be unexplained bruises, cuts, burns, or injuries, frequently have an accident or overly
vague, inconsistent explanation for injuries.
Wearing long sleeves or scarves in hot weather to cover injuries or heavy makeup.
That is true. But I will say, wearing long sleeves, teenagers do that a lot these days. Kayla still wears long sleeves in the summer, and it's not because of any injuries. She just usually didn't like how her skin looked, so she wore long sleeves to cover it. And Florida, kids wear long sleeve shirts and then shorts, which is weird.
I mean, short shorts with the sleeve and boots.
Right. But, so it's not always a guarantee. These are not guaranteed signs, but these are some of the signs you can look for. And there's also some emotional and behavioral signs as well, like appearing anxious, nervous, or fearful, like they're always jittery. If someone touched them, they jump. They're like scared out of their own skin. Exhibiting low self-esteem or sudden loss of confidence. Maybe when they were younger, they were like strong, confident, spoke their mind, but now they're meek. They refrain from talking when their spouse is around.
And it also say for children in the household, a child seems fearful, anxious, or excessively well-behaved, hypervigilant, behavioral problems or regression, or speaking of violence at home or fear of a parent. So basically, an environment like that is going to affect children.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do if you suspect someone is being abused? Well, one thing, you don't confront the abuser. That's why I said I couldn't work in the field, because if I was sitting across the table from someone that abused a child, I feel like I would just want to crawl across that table and punch him in the throat or something. It's a very difficult situation, but it says don't confront him and speak privately and judgmentally. Let them know you care. Offer support, such as saying, I'm worried about you. You don't deserve this. And then most importantly, you share resources and help them to make a safety plan if they are open to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it everyone's responsibility to identify when others are in a domestic violence situation?
I think yes. I mean, if you see something, you should say something or do something. Definitely talk to them in private, like you said, offer your support. Don't be judgmental. Don't say we need to leave now, but just be a listening ear. And sometimes they might say, oh, no, nothing is wrong, but you have that thought in their head. So it is everyone's responsibility, I believe.
Yeah, we all have a shared social responsibility to be aware, stay informed, respond compassionately when we see signs.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So the most important thing is to be aware and educated. Understanding the signs of abuse helps break the silence around domestic violence. You know, the more people talk about domestic violence, the more people are open to telling their stories of what happened to them.
Yeah.
And you talking about your story can help another person.
Yeah, and you have to make sure it's safe to talk about. You don't just speak of it when children are around or the abuser may be around or whatever. You just want to make sure that you let them know that you are there, like Tanya said, to support them.
So awareness helps reduce the stigma and makes it easier for survivors to seek help. You want to speak up when it's safe and appropriate, like we talked about. You're not expected to diagnose or intervene like a professional, but simply showing concern and offering resources can be life-changing. And if you suspect someone is being abused, you can offer your support without judgment.
And Vera is going to post a list of support sites that you can contact.
Some resources. With their numbers.
And if you come across someone, don't just give them a piece of paper with resources on it or information because, the abuser may come across it. But you let them know, hey, just say the word. I got you. I'll call them for you if that's necessary.
Right.
But, it's just a very sensitive area where that person that has been abused really have to agree to do so.
You want to know your limits.
Think of it this way. It's like seeing someone injured in public. If someone was injured in public, first thing you would do is call 911, correct?
Correct.
However, in an abusive situation, it's a little different, but you have to make it known that it's there, you see it, and that it's wrong, and that you're willing to support them in anything that they decide to do.
Well, I think if it's in public and you see the abuse happening in public, you can call 911 for sure. But if you just see someone with bruises on their arms, maybe some scratches or a black eye or heavy makeup, like you said, you didn't see it happen, so you're not 100% sure. So that's when you're kind of being more, just keeping the line of communication open, letting them know, hey, if you want to talk, I'm here to listen.
Well, short story, I won't be long. When I was working in Kansas, this little girl, her mom would bring her by, and I had a junk food drawer. And she knew that she was allowed. The first thing she would do is come to my office and go to the drawer. So I saw her, seemed like maybe 2 or 3 times a week because her mom would go pick her up from the sitter. And she would say things like, well, she got in trouble today. This little girl bit her, so she bit her back. Or this little girl hit her. Every day was like this, somebody at the school. And I'm like, well, you need to change, where you take your child if all that is going on. But this one particular day, my drawer was kind of empty from what she would have wanted to eat. So she came to me and she said, ma'am, she said, you don't have cookies. And I said, oh, yes, I do. So I'm going in my purse and I hand her a pack of cookies and she reached for them and I see fingerprints, bruises on this child's arm. That was not a child hitting her, and it was an abuse. So you really don't know what to do. So what I did was I called my staff member in and I told her what I saw and what I know. She didn't disagree that it was true or not. She didn't own up to it, but she didn't disagree. She just said that sometimes she's real loud and obnoxious and her dad don't like that. So she basically indicated that the dad did it. So I told her, I better not see another abuse on that child or I was going to call someone. I didn't call anyone. I just kind of like wanted to back her in the corner where I said, you need to protect your child. This is not acceptable. But in the end, she stopped bringing the child by the office.
Because sometimes by saying stuff like that would make them even more secretive, keep to themselves even more. Sometimes you don't know what to do.
I wasn't educated on what to do. I figured I would just, I guess you want to call it, bully her, you know. The thing is, when it comes to a child, that is not acceptable.
It's not.
It is not. And let me tell you, my grandma gave me a whipping every day because I was one of those kids. But I knew why I was getting spanked, and it wasn't considered abuse. I mean, today they would consider getting a switch, whipping up, abuse, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference between an abused child and a child being disciplined. Because most of the time, you won't even know, like Tanya said, it's in secrecy that child is being abused. And then if you call the police on someone because they popped their child on the butt and call it abuse, the policeman will tell you, hey, I'd rather for you to discipline them at home than for me to have to discipline them when they're grown.
And sometimes, outside looking in, they might look like the perfect family.
Most of the time they do.
And then in some situations, I watch a lot of Lifetime movies. The reason why they're not speaking up or coming or telling anyone, sometimes it's like their husband is a police officer or a lawyer or a judge or someone high up that they feel like even if they left, they wouldn't have control of the situation and that they might lose their kid if they tried to leave.
And in most cases, they maybe home moms, stay-at-home moms, or stay-at-home dads, whichever the case may be, and they feel like they need the financial support, so they are afraid to leave. It's like, what am I going to do if I have to stand on my own 2 feet? Well, you don't have to be in a domestic violence relationship to find yourself having to say, you know what, I got to leave this situation, and what am I going to do? You need to, every opportunity you get, if you can't afford to go to get education, there are a lot of free resources out there where you can study and learn, but you need to try your best to have an avenue to support yourself. And I used to say, Tanya, if I had to dig a ditch, I'm going to support mine.
Well, you always taught me that. I'm never been married, but you said even if I did get married one day, make sure that you could stand on your own 2 feet. And even if I was a stay-at-home wife, make sure you're putting some money to the side, make sure that you have somewhere to go, which I know if you're around, my kids are around, I'm always going to have somewhere to go. So.
And that's not something new. Back in the day, them old women, my grandmother, she would go to do field work, like pick up pecans or work in the tobacco fields and make her extra money. Mm-hmm. And then she would stash it. She stashed it so much until she was 44 years old, but she finally got a driver's license and bought a car. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You have to have, what they call it when you put money away, a rainy day.
A rainy day fund.
You got to be prepared for a rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya, you prepared for a rainy day?
No.
Me neither.
I mean, I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Me too.
But we're connected, so
yeah,
we'll work on that.
The whole family is.
We're interconnected.
When someone made the comment years ago, decades ago, oh, we are only one paycheck away from being homeless. So I thought about that thing, and then I called my mom in Miami. I said, Mom, someone said that we're all one paycheck away from being homeless. I ain't gonna be homeless. I'll stay with you, my sister, my brother. I never felt like I was one paycheck away from being home. But I know that there are quite a few people are disconnected from your family. So I plead with you, if your partner, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, try to alienate you from your family, don't let them do it. You stay connected to your family.
In summary, no one can be the sole protector of others, but creating a community where people look out for one another, especially when it comes to domestic violence, is everyone's role in some way. I love that community.
Yeah, that is. It takes a community, and share resources, not advice. You know, don't give them advice. Girl, if I was you, boy, if I was you. No. You don't share advice like that, but you offer to help them find professional support, such as National Domestic Violence Hotline. The number is 1-800-799-7233. And if you can't remember the number, you can look it up if you have, internet, the hotline.org. You just type in the hotline.org. Local shelters or legal aid, they can help you and offer to support them and offer to help them access the internet or make a safe call if needed. You know, you can go to the library, you got internet, and you can find a way to make a call. There's so many avenues, but that's why you don't want anyone to disconnect you from the world.
So what I gathered from this whole conversation, what stood out to me was community, what we just talked about last, helping them create a safety plan or a way out, just being a listening ear, no judgment, and just be supportive in the way they need you to be supportive.
And remember, your compassion could be the one thing that reminds them that they're not alone.
Yes.
Even if they don't act right away, support plans a seed in hope and safety. So just let them know you're there.
Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Enter the Minds of Nadine and Vera Scuniers. Go check us out on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify. Leave your comments. Let us know what you thought about this episode. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.